Hello everyone and welcome to another tutorial from Fire Mountain Gems. Today it's net stitch. Now there's lots of different ways to do net stitch. I think every one of these is done slightly different. I'm going to show you the most basic, the easiest way to do it, and then you can take that and use your own creativity to make the net stitch the way you want. But I'm going to do a basic bracelet, so let's move these guys out of the way.
Get our email newsletter for beading news, sale announcements, new product announcements, and more. Link is in the description below.
Now you can do this with 2 color beads like I'm going to do in this tutorial, or you can use just one solid color. It's beautiful either way. I have a needle threaded with Fireline thread. This is a 3-pound, I believe, and I'm going to get started on the net stitch. To begin with, I'm going to add a stop bead. Now, most of the time I'd use one of these little bead buddies, and these are awesome. But for this one, I found a stop bead to be just a little bit easier to work with. We have another video tutorial just on how to use a stop bead. So I've gone through the stop bead. I'm going to go back through the stop bead again, making basically kind of like a little knot around it, because I want this to be really firm and not slide up and down my thread really easily like it does now. I'm going to actually go through it twice to make it just a little more stoppy on the end here. Okay, so there's my stop bead, and this is not included in the design. You're not going to see it. We're going to take it off when we're done. So I've added this nice little firmly fixed stop bead, and I'm going to add an accent bead and 2 base beads, an accent bead and 2 base beads, and I'm going to repeat that pattern a few more times. In fact, I'm going to add an accent, 2 base, an accent, 2 base, an accent and 2 base, an accent and 2 base. You're going to want to have an even number of the accent beads to make the pattern turn out. Again, you could do this all in solid colors. I'm just using 2 colors, makes it a little easier. An accent and 2 base. I'm going to do 8 accent beads. A base and 2 accents. And this will be the width of the bracelet I'm making. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One more accent bead. I want to end with an accent bead. There are 8 accent beads. Okay, so now to make the turnaround to come back, we're going to add 8 more beads. It's going to be 2 accents. 2 base, an accent, 2 base, an accent, and 2 base. So that's our turnaround pattern. 2 accent, a base, 2 accent, a base, and 2 accent. We're going to go back through, skipping the first accent bead. We're going to go through the second accent bead. And it's not going to look like much of anything at first. It's going to be like, what are you doing, Rose? Not to worry, we'll make it all turn out. So there's our turnaround. So I've just did the turnaround, and I'm going to add 2 more base, an accent, and 2 base. And I'm going to go through, I'm going to skip 1 accent bead and go through this accent bead. And again, 2 base, accent, 2 base. Go through, skip an accent bead, and go through the next accent bead. And again, 2 base, 1 accent, 2 base, skip a bead and go through the next accent bead, which will be the last bead in your row. Pull everything tight. Doesn't look like much of a net yet. Don't worry, it'll work out. Now we're going to do the turnaround the same way we did on the first side. So we're going to add 2 accent, two base and an accent, 2 base and an accent, and 2 base. It's a total of 8 beads. Skipping the first bead, go through the next bead. Now we can see how the net's going to start coming together. Can you see the net beginning? We're going to be making little diamonds, basically. So now we go back the row the same way we did earlier. 2 base, and accent, 2 base, skip this bead and go through this bead. Pull everything up nice and tight. Two base, an accent, and 2 base. Skip this bead and go through that bead. Pull that all nice and tight. And again, 2 base, an accent, and 2 base. Skip that bead and go through this bead. And we're at the turnaround again. So we're going to add those 8 beads. 2 base, accent, 2 base, accent, and 2 base. Skip the bead you just came out of and go through the next bead. Next accent bead. We see a net now. There we go. Let's finish this row. 2 base, an accent, 2 base. Skipping this bead and going through this bead. Two base, an accent, and 2 base. Skipping this bead, going through this accent bead. Two base, accent, 2 base, skipping this bead and coming through this one. Then we would do another turnaround and just keep going back and forth, creating this net stitch. And as you go, you'll see more and more how this looks like a net. In fact, here's a nice long chunk I've already done. Ta-da! So you can see this is beautiful in the gold and the blue, but you could also do it in solid colors. You could make it a little bit of a longer V down here at the bottom to make your beads curve so that you get more of a necklace instead of a bracelet. So there's lots of experimenting to do with net stitch. I hope you go out, experiment, have fun with the colors, the stitches, and how many beads you have on your turnaround rows and all that stuff, because this is a great project in net stitch. Thanks so much for joining me. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and happy beading.